She found out he gambled away their entire future and now she can't look at him the same way. He got $30,000. $30,000 fell into his hands like a lifeline, like a door swinging open on a life that had been stuck, and he gambled every single cent of it away. And the part that still has not left me, the part one keep coming back to, is that she found out after it was already gone. That is the kind of thing that changes the temperature of a relationship permanently. Not a fight that ends in tears and apologies and eventually moves on. Not a bad decision that costs something but can be repaired over time. A confession after the fact, delivered quietly, from a place of having nothing left to confess about because the damage was already complete. The money was gone. The chance was over. The future she had maybe started to imagine with that $30,000 already spent and buried. And now she had to decide what to do with that information while standing in the rubble of something she had not even known was on fire. This woman, who we will just call her, has been with her boyfriend for 4 years. She is 30 years old. She is an accountant, someone whose entire professional life is built around understanding numbers, tracking patterns, and knowing where money goes and why. She earns $120,000 a year. She has savings she built herself, through discipline and delayed gratification and the kind of financial intention that does not happen by accident. She has goals that are not abstract. She wants to get married. She wants children. She wants a home that belongs to her. She has not been sitting around waiting for the universe to sort things out on her behalf. She has been building her own life with both hands, deliberately and consistently, while hoping that the person beside her would eventually catch up. He has not caught up. He earns $40,000 a year in a customer service job and has been enrolled in one certificate program after another for the entire 4 years they have been together, each one presented as the thing that is finally going to move the needle, each one quietly abandoned before it ever reaches completion. None of these programs have produced a certificate. None of them have led to a raise, a promotion, or a single concrete change in his financial situation. And she has been patient with this in a way that most people would not be. She has subsidized their shared life, covering 70% of the bills month after month, funding their trips, absorbing the gap between what he earns and what their life actually costs, and she did not do this resentfully in the beginning. She did it as an act of love. She did it as an investment in someone she believed was moving, even slowly, in the right direction. Then the inheritance arrived. $30,000 from a family member, and I want you to imagine what that moment must have felt like for her. She had been carrying so much for so long. She had been the financially stable one, the one who covered the shortfall, the one who quietly swallowed her frustration and told herself it was temporary. And then suddenly there was money. Real money. Not a windfall she had to share or explain, but money that landed directly in his hands at a moment when everything felt like it could shift. Maybe this was the turning point she had been waiting for. Maybe he would pay down debt, or invest it, or put something aside as a foundation for the future they kept talking about in vague terms without ever taking concrete steps toward. Maybe this was the moment that would finally make her feel like they were building something together instead of her building and him watching. He gambled it all away. He did not invest $1 of it. He did not use it to catch up on anything or put a single cent toward their future. He did not buy a ring. He sat with $30,000, looked at it, and decided the best use of it was to try to turn it into more at a casino or on a betting app or wherever this happened, chasing a bigger number that never came, until the original number was gone too. And then, only after there was nothing left and no amount of honesty could change the outcome, he told her. He told her he had a gambling addiction. He told her he was sorry. He told her it would never happen again. Let me take a breath here, because I need to. She stayed. She did not pack a bag that night or the next morning. She processed it the way someone processes a quiet devastation, slowly and privately, trying to find the version of the story where it still makes sense to stay. She has been telling herself for the past 6 months that this is the lowest point, that the admission of the addiction is the beginning of something, that now that the money is gone and the secret is out, maybe the real work can finally start. And I understand that logic completely. It is not naive. It is the logic of someone who loves a person deeply and wants to believe that love is not being wasted. But here is the thing, she is also carrying underneath all of that hope. She is resentful. She said it herself. She named it without flinching. And resentment is not something you can wait out or love your way around. It has to be addressed directly and honestly, or it becomes the foundation that everything else slowly cracks on top of. She is also scared. She said it plainly in the edit she added at the end of her post, almost like she needed to get it out before she lost the nerve. Starting over at 30 terrifies her. What if she walks away and does not find someone else? What if these 4 years were not just difficult but genuinely wasted, time she could have spent somewhere else with someone else who was actually moving in her direction? That fear is real and it is not something to dismiss. But I want to place it right next to something else she said in that same breath. She said she knows she deserves more. She said she almost feels stuck. And when someone says both of those things in the same paragraph, that is not a relationship problem waiting to be solved. That is a departure that has not happened yet, sitting quietly in the room with her while she tries to talk herself out of it. She asked whether she is being shallow for considering leaving someone over finances. And the answer is no. This is not about his income level. This is not about the gap between $120,000 and $40,000 a year, because plenty of couples navigate income differences with communication and mutual effort and a shared sense of direction. This is about a pattern of behavior that has repeated itself across 4 years without any meaningful shift. It is about the programs that get enrolled in and never finished. It is about the bills that arrive late even on the reduced share she agreed to cover less of. It is about an inheritance that represented a genuine, concrete opportunity to change the trajectory of his life and their future together, and instead that money went into the void of an addiction he had been hiding from the person who was financing his existence. That is not shallow. That is a woman paying attention to what she has actually seen, and drawing honest conclusions from it. She is 30 years old. She has 11 months left on this lease. And she has a decision ahead of her that only she can make, in her own time, on her own terms. But I am going to tell her what I think anyway. She already knows. That is the thing I keep coming back to when I read her post. She is not here because she is confused about the facts. She laid them out with the kind of precision and clarity that comes from someone who has been turning this over in her mind for a long time, examining it from every angle, looking for the version of the story where she is wrong. She is not asking for someone to explain the pattern to her. She is asking for permission to act on what she already understands, and the reason she needs that permission is because she is afraid and because she loves him and because loving someone and knowing you need to leave them is one of the loneliest feelings there is. Both of those things are real. Both of them are valid. And neither of them is a reason to stay inside something that is making her resentful, stuck, and quietly mourning the future she wanted. The gambling addiction is not just a financial red flag. It is a mental health and behavioral issue that requires real, structured, professional treatment. Not a promise made in the aftermath of losing everything. Not a declaration delivered under pressure that it will never happen again. Actual treatment. Therapy with someone who specializes in compulsive behavior. A recovery program with accountability built into it. 6 months of not gambling because there is no money left to gamble with is not recovery. That is just the absence of opportunity. Recovery looks like work, consistent and documented and supported by more than good intentions. She deserves someone who matches her energy. Someone who wakes up every single day and takes the life they are building as seriously as she takes hers, who shows up with the same intention and consistency that she brings to everything she does. That person may still be her boyfriend somewhere down the road, after real work and real change. He might have a genuine turning point ahead of him. But she has already waited 4 years for the version of him she believed she was investing in. She has already absorbed financial and emotional weight that was never supposed to be hers alone. She has already watched what he does when real opportunity lands in his hands. She owes it to herself to decide what the next chapter of her life looks like with clear eyes, and she owes it to herself to make that decision based on the person she has actually been with, not the person she has been hoping he would eventually become. His wife planned her escape for months and he tried to sabotage it, so she called his bluff. She had been planning this for months and he walked in at 10 at night thinking sorry would be enough. It was not enough. Anna had done everything right. She communicated clearly, she planned ahead, she asked her husband to take the time off, she checked in over Christmas to confirm it was handled, and she went about her week trusting that the person she married would follow through on one single thing. And he did not. He did not take the time off. He waited until the last possible moment to send a text, not even a phone call, a text, telling her there was a work emergency and he was so sorry and he would make it up to her. And she fell apart. Because she knew. She already knew somewhere in the back of her mind that this was coming, and it still broke her when it actually happened. There is something uniquely devastating about watching your worst fear confirm itself in real time, about bracing for an impact you told yourself was not coming and feeling it land anyway. She had probably replayed that text in her head a dozen times before she even finished reading it, already calculating what it meant, already feeling the weight of every plan she had made start to unravel. Let me back up and give this situation the full context it deserves. Dick and Anna, that is what we are calling them, have been in a marriage that has been quietly falling apart since the kids arrived. And the way the narrator describes it is important. Before kids, solid marriage. After kids, a slow and steady decline into life support. That is not a coincidence and it is not a mystery. What happened is what happens in a lot of households when children enter the picture and one parent decides, consciously or not, that parenting is optional when the other parent is available to do it instead. Dick watches the kids for 30 minutes while Anna cooks dinner and expects recognition for it. 30 minutes. Of watching his own children. While his wife cooks for the family. And he wants a medal. Think about what it does to a person to watch that happen over and over again. To watch someone accept the bare minimum as generosity. To smile and say thank you because the alternative is a fight you do not have the energy for after a full day of doing everything alone. That detail alone tells you everything you need to know about the dynamic in this house. Anna is not just a stay-at-home mom. She is a college student. She is building a side business. She is managing the household, raising the children, maintaining the schedule, cooking the food, and presumably doing all of this while quietly drowning in a marriage where her partner sees his bare minimum participation as something praiseworthy. The MLM detail is thrown in almost as a side note, and honestly I think the narrator is right to brush past the business model because what actually matters is the outcome. Anna made friends. Anna found a community. Anna started to rebuild something for herself inside a situation that had been grinding her down for years. She found people who were genuinely excited to see her walk through a door, people who asked about her and meant it, and you cannot underestimate what that means to someone who has been invisible inside their own home. So the convention is not just a convention. That is what Dick does not understand or does not care to understand. This trip is not about selling products or whatever the event is technically for. This trip is Anna saying, I exist outside of this house, I have people who are happy to see me, I need to breathe for a few days. She planned a staycation, which means she is not even going far, she is staying at a hotel nearby. She is not abandoning her family, she is not disappearing for weeks, she is asking for a few days where she is not the only one responsible for everything. She organized the clothes. She prepped the meals. She left an itinerary so detailed that a stranger could have followed it. She did everything she could to make his job easy, because that is who she is, because even in the act of finally doing something for herself she was still thinking about everyone else first. And he still did not show up. When the narrator tells Anna to finish packing and let them handle the kids until Dick gets home, and Anna initially pushes back because she does not want anyone in the middle of it. That moment matters. Anna is so conditioned to managing everything, including the emotional fallout of Dick's failures, that her first instinct is to protect him from consequences even when he is the one who created the problem. She does not want to cause a scene. She does not want to make it worse. She is standing there with her bag half packed, probably feeling guilty for wanting this, probably already rehearsing the apology she does not owe anyone. And the narrator essentially tells her, "No, finish packing, this is not your mess to fix, go." I just want to pause here and say, good. That is the right answer. Go. Dick strolls in at 10 at night, hours after Anna has already left for the hotel and the narrator has been sitting with those kids, and apparently acts surprised that there are consequences. Then he starts blasting phones. Both Anna's and his siblings. Like the person most owed an explanation is somehow the one being unreasonable. Anna's response is calm and surgical. Marriage counseling or divorce lawyers, pick one, and stop calling unless it is about the kids. That is not an emotional outburst. That is a woman who has had this particular conversation with herself many times already and finally said it out loud to the person who needed to hear it. There is no screaming in that message. There is no begging. There is only clarity, the kind of clarity that does not come from a single bad night but from years of small disappointments stacking up until the weight of them becomes undeniable. Then Dick shows up at the narrator's house and asks what he is supposed to do with the kids. The narrator, very reasonably, asks whether he even bothered to request the time off. And he will not answer. He just talks around it and asks to be bailed out. He does not have the babysitter's contact information. He does not know his children's weekly schedule. His wife left a fully prepped itinerary, organized clothes, and prepared meals, and somehow he still needs someone to hold his hand. He is standing in the narrator's doorway looking lost in a way that might read as sympathetic if you did not know the full story, if you did not understand that the lostness is not a tragedy that happened to him but a choice he made over and over again every time he decided that someone else would handle it. That is not a man who was blindsided by a work emergency. That is a man who never intended to show up in the first place and assumed someone else would catch it when he did not. And now, no one is catching it. His parents are not returning calls. Her parents are not returning calls. His sibling told him to get off the property. Anna is not answering unless it involves the children. The alleged business trip has been cancelled. He is alone with his kids and no infrastructure and no safety net, and that is exactly where he should be. Not because anyone wants him to suffer, but because the version of reality he has been living in, the one where someone always absorbs the impact of his choices, that version needed to end. Sometimes the only way a person learns what they have been refusing to acknowledge is to stand in the middle of the absence they created and feel every square inch of it. The narrator ends with hoping Anna has the best time and hoping Dick does not get a moment of peace, and honestly, same. That is not cruel. That is consequence. Those are two different things, and it matters to know the difference. Here's what I think about all of this. Dick gambled on the assumption that someone would always cover for him. His wife would manage it. His family would step in. The babysitter contact would materialize somehow. The schedule would sort itself out. He has been making that bet for years, every time he watched Anna carry the load while he did the bare minimum and waited to be thanked for it. And for years it worked, because Anna is competent and capable and the kind of person who figures things out even when she should not have to. The problem is that strategy only works until the people you are counting on decide they are done being counted on. Anna did not snap. Anna did not blow up. Anna made a plan, communicated clearly, gave him every possible opportunity to follow through, and when he did not, she responded with the kind of quiet decisiveness that only comes from someone who has been thinking about this moment for a long time. The ultimatum she gave him is not dramatic, it is measured. Counseling or lawyers? That is not a woman on the edge. That is a woman who has already done the emotional math and arrived at a number she is comfortable standing behind. What I hope happens next is that Dick actually takes the counseling seriously, because there is a version of this story where he wakes up and becomes the partner and father he is clearly capable of being. But I also think Anna has already decided that the version of Dick she has been living with is not a version she is willing to accept indefinitely, and honestly, good for her. The convention, the friends, the staycation, all of it points to someone quietly building the scaffolding of a life that does not depend on him to hold it up. Whether Dick shows up for his family or not, Anna is going to be fine. And the fact that she is going to be fine regardless is probably the most important thing he should understand right now. Drop a comment below and tell me which story hit harder for you. If you made it this far, give it a like and subscribe, it really does help.